they're not able to hear.
Right.
So
So,
yeah.
All right, we should be live.
hello and welcome to the webinar by ASU Ira A. Fulton Schools for Engineering. And, we start here with this slide, the #1 in the U.S. for innovation. It's a ranking we're very, very proud of, and you can see we're ahead of Stanford and MIT. And I hope by the end of this presentation, you'll have a better understanding of why we're ranked #1 in the U.S. for innovation. Now, first, some introductions. My name is Pat Phelan. I'm the Assistant Dean of Graduate Programs here in Engineering. I'm also a professor of mechanical engineering, and I'll go to my colleagues here to introduce themselves.
I'm Joe Palais. I'm the Graduate Program Chair for Electrical, Computer, and Energy Engineering.
I'm Holly Singh. I'm the Senior Director for International Students and Scholar Center.
Araxio Vanessian, Manager for Computers, Informatics, and Decision Systems Engineering.
So we're going to start today with a brief presentation, but we're going to give you plenty of opportunities to ask questions, and we're going to try to address and answer all those questions during our time here today. So I'm going to get us started. I think probably all of you already know this, but where is ASU? Of course, we're in the state of Arizona. That means we're next to California. We're just below Nevada. Probably the best known feature of the state would be the Grand Canyon, and you see that image in the upper right-hand corner. So why ASU? So here are a number of rankings and things that I think you would find interesting. So starting with the upper left-hand corner, we're among the top 1% of the world's most prestigious universities, according to the Times Higher Education. We're a top 10 university for research. That's a ranking by the U.S. National Science Foundation. We're among the top 20 for the number of utility patents generated. And then skipping down to the lower right-hand corner, we're the #1 choice of international students among all public universities in the United States. That means we have more international students than any other public university in the US. So now let's talk a little bit more about engineering in particular. I'm showing a picture here of our team for the Hyperloop competition. So this is a competition you might be aware of. The last 2 years, the ASU team has qualified for the final round of competition in California, which is quite an honor. And in the lower right-hand corner are some additional figures. We have more than $100 million of research funding every year just in engineering alone. We have 21 startup companies over the last 3 years that came just from engineering. So this is an example of the different kinds of opportunities that are available to you if you come here to ASU. And a little bit more about IP and startups. You can see that we actually do very, very well, and we're an excellent company with respect to entrepreneurship and innovation. That's something that indeed we value very greatly. So a particularly good success story that we like to point to is Neolite. So Neolite was founded by bioengineering students. In fact, 2 of those were from India. And indeed, one of those was named by the Forbes magazine in the 30 under 30 category for India. Neolite is developing a technology that they invented for the treatment of jaundice in infants. So this is engineering at ASU. Now I realize this is very complex and not easy to understand, but this is part of the reason why we're considered to be innovative. We take different yet related academic programs and we put them together in the similar schools or in the same school. And the reason for doing that is that we think this enhances the collaboration opportunities, both academically as well as from a research point of view. So now let's talk a little bit more about what we call CIDSE, and that stands for the School of Computing, Informatics, and Decision Systems Engineering. So this is the school that houses, for example, our computer science programs. It houses also industrial engineering as well. And you're going to hear much more later on from Araxi, who is from that school. And you can see here that CIDSE is actually doing very, very well. It's a very strong program, as can be shown here by all these very positive rankings. So what is the mission for CIDSE? It's defining and creating what we call the information-driven society. Now, it's taking data, computing data, and it's enabling people to make decisions from that data. So in terms of CIDSE at ASU, it's actually very broad. Most of the programs are here at the Tempe campus, which is the main campus. That includes things like computer science, computer systems engineering, industrial engineering, the robotics and autonomous systems, AI concentration, and so forth. But we also have a major program at the Polytechnic campus, which is about also in the suburb of Phoenix. It's in Mesa, Arizona, and about 20 miles away. And that is our software engineering degree program. And in addition to that, we have 2 online graduate degrees as well. And so with that, I'm going to go now to my colleague, Joe Pillay.
I'm going to describe one of the schools, the Electrical, Computer, and Energy Engineering, and what we have. The programs we have are a master's degree with a thesis and with a non-thesis. You have a choice, and then we have the PhD program. We also have computer engineering degree, again with a thesis and a non-thesis, and in the computer engineering we also have a PhD program. The research in ECEE is on the order of, was 33 million, has increased a little bit, but that's quite a bit of funding that we have. That's for our research. It's all obtained by the professors themselves. And as you can see, we've written there that it's tripled from 2005. The electrical engineering graduate program itself is ranked at 31 by U.S. News and World Report. A lot of people choose the school they're going to based on the U.S. News, and we're a higher ranking in the National Research Council. It's 19. These rankings depend on a number of things, and so that's why you get ranked differently by different ranking systems. We'll look at the next slide. First, we have under electrical engineering, we have 6 programs in controls, electromagnetics and antennas, electronic mixed signal circuit design, electric power and energy systems, physical electronics, which is solid state, and photonics, and then we have signal processing and communications. So you can see that when you're in electrical engineering, you can major in any of these particular subjects and can take elective classes in other subjects such that you can broaden your program. The computer engineering is a shared program between us and computer science. And then there's a new program which apparently is very popular. We've gotten a lot of people entered into it, robotics and autonomous systems. That's sort of partly in electrical and partly in other areas as well. We'll look at the next slide. For financial aid, there are a lot of different things available. Something of particular of interest to international students are our internships. The internship, you're allowed with CPT to go 1 or 2 semesters, or a summer and 1 semester. And these are very popular. And we've had somewhat on the order of 100 internships each semester or during the summer. So you work for a company and you get paid by them, and you get the information that they have. And there are scholarships as well. This is a brief introduction to what we have available from ECEE, Electrical, Computer, and Energy Engineering, and then I'll turn it back to Pat.
All right, thank you. And before moving on, I want to mention that we're happy to take your questions. Please use the chat facility on YouTube Live. And as soon as our presentation is over, then we're going to turn over to those questions and start answering those. So please go ahead and enter your questions as they come up. So with that, I turn now to my colleague, Holly.
As Dr. Pillay was saying, that we have a lot of opportunities with CPT and OPT. We will talk in detail about that. But first, I will give you a quick overview of where our students are from. So we, our students represent close to about 130 countries, and total population is about 10,000 or so. But if you include the students who are in OPT, we're over 13,000 total students. Our biggest populations are China and India. China represents about 3,600. India represents close to about 2,300. But in the graduate school, the populations are a little bit different. So India is about 2,200 or so, and China is about 900. And we have over 20 different organizations that these students belong to. In fact, this weekend, the Indian Student Association held their spring event, one of the biggest events, called Holi, and we had close to about 2,000 students at this Holi event. As I mentioned earlier, Indian Student Association is very, very active, and apart from doing social events, they also help with incoming Indian students. So I think in April or May, the Indian students are going to host a Facebook Live event where they will be talking to you and other admitted students as well, and talking about how to do pickups at the airport, and help with the housing and banking information. As your seniors, they expect themselves to help you with getting to campus and getting used to the system here. Indian Student Association is also home away from home for our Indian students, because they are the ones who make sure that you are comfortable and make sure that you get all the different information and participate in different events. As we were talking about CPT and OPT earlier, we wanted to mention that these are some of the few companies that our students are getting their internships in. As you can tell by this, the many companies that are in the Phoenix metropolitan area, and our Indian students are able to get the CPTs in these areas. Intel, of course, is very well known, and their place in Chandler, Arizona, is very popular with our Indian students. And in OPT, as you can tell by the numbers itself, it's a constant growing number. These are our students who avail the 12 months of OPT, and then after they have done with the 12 months, because engineering is a STEM field, they're able to do another 24 months of a STEM OPT. So that's why you can see the number rising. And then Arizona State itself hires the largest number of students in OPT. The next is Intel, and then Amazon and Qualcomm and American Express.
All right, so now let's move on to our Roxy.
Okay, so when you are trying to apply to our programs, I strongly encourage you to visit our Fulton Schools of Engineering website, which is here located on the screen, and gather all the necessary documents. This is very important because it will be much more smoother for you to submit your application when it comes time to submit your application. So what are they're looking, most schools want a statement of purpose, letters of recommendations, GRE, resume, and of course now we are accepting unofficial transcripts. The only thing what you want to make note of this unofficial transcript is that you need to gather all your different transcripts from different schools and make it as a one document and upload it as one unofficial document. And then once you log into the website to apply for the graduate admissions program, the link is provided for you here, is you can start submitting all the questions and answers that's being asked in the application process. So once you're admitted, congratulations. The process involves several steps. So basically you will receive first an admission letter. In the meantime, if you have not heard from anything from us, you always are welcome to check your application status through My ASU. So some of the things that they ask for international students prior to sending an I-20, the financial guarantee document. It is very important that you submit your financial guarantee document, and that link is provided to you through My ASU. And once that is processed, then they will send you your I-20. You have to identify where you want to have the I-20 sent. And then after that is you receive your I-20, the next step is to look for your MMRI immunization to clear that. It's very important. Again, there is a link provided through My ASU that you submit your paperwork, your health documents. And then after that, you are able to register. And the registration actually started last week on March 21st, but we're continuing. We have a lot of classes available. And if you are in that process where you are trying to clear your MMRI, then you can still register this week. Okay, so what is required for an international student? International students are required to be enrolled in 9 credit hours full-time status. And only 3 credit hours of online is allowed, and minimum of 6 credit hours for those with assistantship. And that this is if you are not part of the Fulton schools, you can do 6 credits. But if you are part of the school, Fulton schools, then the school will work with you to let you register for 12 credit hours. So if your application is still pending, we encourage you to visit my ASU to check and see what is missing. And if there are anything that is missing, either the graduate admission is contacting you or the department is contacting you to let you know what is missing. So if you have started your application process and you have not hit the button submit, and it's incomplete, we still are accepting applications. So we strongly encourage you to finish up all the necessary documents, submitting your missing letters of recommendation, test scores, transcripts, so forth. And then your application will be complete and we will start reviewing.
All right, so thank you. All right, so this is actually our last slide in our prepared presentation, and I'm putting this up here because we have a number of staff in India whose job it is to help you through the application process. And 2 in particular here are Deepraj and Nikki, and so their contact information is shown here. So I encourage you very much to reach out to either of them so you can see their WhatsApp contact numbers. Furthermore, for admitted students, there is a WhatsApp group for the fall 2019, and so you can see that group down there at the lower right-hand corner. And so with that, I think it's time now to go to your questions.
And then you should be able to click on the tab at the bottom. Yep. There you go. And you want to scroll to the top. Now just scroll off to the side. There we go.
So these are the new questions now?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is, how many students are in the computer science PhD program? And it's good timing because we're joined now by our computer science graduate program chair. So with that, I'm going to ask Cheetah, perhaps Roxy probably knows that
Yes.
answer just as well. So we'll go ahead and address that.
So we have approximately 160 PhD students in computer science PhD program.
Okay, about 160. All right. So next, if someone has a TA, how much financial guarantee would they need to show?
So the financial guarantee requirement is approximately $47,000. And that paperwork is provided for you when you're submitting your financial guarantee. It's mentioned in there, the exact dollar amount.
But if they have a TA, then do they?
Then if they have a TA, then it will match. So the offer, with the offer together, they will match it, and it will be a significantly less, almost the dollar amount, I would say probably maybe $13,000 to $20,000, depending.
Okay. So in other words, obviously, if you have a TA, then the remaining amount that you have to show would be much, much less, right? $13,000 to $20,000
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. All right, where can we connect with people in our specialization from different countries? Maybe that's a Holly question.
Well, I mean, of course, we have the Indian Student Association, but beyond that, how are the departments organizing their students? Whether they are from the same country or different country, I'm not sure, but we definitely get all international students together in the beginning of the semester. So majority of the domestic students show up Saturday before the classes start. We get our international students a week before, so they have a week of activities before the school starts. And another option for international students is the fact that they can come a month before their I-20 start date. So if the I-20 start date, for example, is August 14th, that means they can come anytime after July 15th in campus. And that's a good time for them to come early and meet with other new students and also interact and make other arrangements like their housing and their banking and things like that. Although we want students to kind of start thinking about housing right away, they may want to. Some of them do want to wait till they're here. So once you're on campus, and usually you're allowed to be on campus a month before your I-20 start date, that is the time you really connect with other students in your area, because the departments also host different events and different times to kind of get people together.
Can I add?
Please.
So, from talking to students, I've heard that they've connected through Facebook, and they start a group, and they join as a group, and then they're networking before they even arrive here. So, some of them, they're trying to match housing, share a room together. So, through Facebook connections, they have connected that way. So we have, like, for example, a CIDSE advising kind of group or CIDSE groups, and they put the year of their start. So as a starting group, they join, and it's a close network.
Very good. And there's also that WhatsApp group that we showed earlier for fall 2019 admitted students. All right. What is the living cost per month at ASU? You want to take a crack at that?
I would say probably depending on if you are sharing room with your colleagues, classmates, and eating and all. I would probably say around, you're probably spending close to $300 to $500 a month, depending on what you're spending. And so you're paying your rent, you're eating, sharing meals and things like that. So you're looking at around $300 to $500.
All right.
But that does not include the rent. The rent would be definitely higher, because in the area around Tempe, the rents are over $600. So be mindful of that, because when we in the I-20, when we put the amount for living costs, we put close to about $14,000 or $15,000 a year. 14 or 15,000 translates to over $1,000 a month cost. So be aware of that. But you can definitely go much higher than that if you want an exclusive studio bedroom apartment in the middle of Tempe, or you can go the other way around if you have a shared space with another student. So depending on what your habits are, this can really range a lot.
All right, thank you. How and when to apply for a GRA or TA position? Any thoughts?
I think I'd answer that a little bit. For the TA positions, usually we fill those positions with people who have been here for a semester. And so that then we started, for example, we've already started hiring the TAs for next semester. So if you're a new student, it's a little difficult to become a TA the first semester, but the second semester you can apply for a TA.
In computer science, we give preference to PhD students for TA position. So some of the incoming students, together with admission, we also give them TA offers. After you have been here, there will be a TA deadline for applying. Like, say, if you are applying for spring, the deadline will be somewhere around November. And if you're applying for fall, the deadline would be somewhere around May or April or May.
Yeah, and in general, GRA and TA positions are prioritized for PhD level students. I think that's fair to say for all the programs here in engineering. For the GRAs, it's really a decision by an individual faculty member. So the important thing is to establish a relationship with a faculty member. And for the most part, it's difficult to do that until you get here. There are times when it's done from a distance. But usually it's done after you arrive here at ASU to really have that relationship. With regards to teaching assistantships, in addition to what you've already been told, some departments or some programs have online applications like computer science. Most do not. So if you don't see an online application for a teaching assistantship, what you can do is to reach out to the graduate program chair for that respective program.
Let me go on a little bit more. It is true that all of the schools prioritize the TA positions for PhDs. Nonetheless, there are certain areas for a lab where only people with masters have had the prerequisite information. They've taken the courses, taken a lot more courses than the PhD. So it does turn out that, and we hire a lot of TAs, that almost half of our TAs are master's degree.
And this is non-academic related, but there are many management intern possibilities as well on campus. For example, I hire 4 management interns in my office, and the management interns get this tuition benefit. So their tuition is taken care of, and they get paid our hourly wages as well, which is close to about
Yeah, in
$13.
general, all across the universities, our students find some positions in across the university in different places.
Yeah.
And we might mention that the TAs and the RAs get approximately the same amount of funding, and a full TA takes care of all of the tuition.
And the research that we've done in the past on when we were visiting India is that 75% of our international students have one kind of or another job on campus, whether it's TA, GRA, management intern, or just office work and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Student.
That's true. That's true. All right. Next, does ASU have a co-op program for CS grad students?
So co-op is seen as the same as international internship. So the internship is the same. We look at it as an internship. So even though it says co-op, it is an internship opportunity. Yes, we have internship opportunities for students, and it's up to the student to find that position by connecting through the Engineering Career Center website. There is a lot of information available. And we allow students to do 3 semesters of internships. They can do spring, summer, and fall. During fall, during the summer, they can do full time, and during spring and fall, they can do part time internships.
How do we register for the classes we want?
Sure. For us, for computer science, we send a welcome information informing the students what to register in classes, which classes to pick and select. I'm sure from what I know from talking with my colleagues, all the schools send some form of communication to their students, informing them what to register and what are their priorities. If there is deficiency assignment, then they are taking first their deficiencies and also taking 1 or 2 graduate courses. If they are not assigned with any deficiencies, then they're taking the required courses first before taking any electives. So the priority is always towards the degree requirements, ensuring that you complete your core requirements, your areas, and then the electives comes last.
All right. Thank you. So, some brief information about scholarships. Maybe particular scholarships in CIDSE and ECE, perhaps?
Well, there are a number of scholarships, but again, the priority is given to the PhD students. I think we send out a lot of information to the incoming master's students and saying they must be able to have enough funds to get through the first year by themselves, and that's really the true situation. Some of the people might get TA or might get some sort of help, but there's very little help for the beginning master's student.
Besides the TA and RA, there are a wide range of scholarships and fellowships that are available We put some of this information in our web page, in the CIDSE web page, and there are also information in the graduate school pages. And time to time, there are various kinds of scholarships available through the dean's office. We get that information and then we pass it on to all the students. So be always on the lookout of various scholarships which you may be eligible for.
Anything to add? All right, thank you. Is it advisable to live near the Tempe campus as a software engineering student? Good question.
So we have classes both at Polytechnic campus and in Tempe. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity to just to let you know that in Polytechnic area there is a lot cheaper housing. So if you are a software engineer student, it's best that you live close by Polytechnic, especially if you're gonna do a thesis and a research. Then you're better off being, over at Polytechnic site area. But if you're taking a combination of classes, both computer science here in Tempe offered and at Polytechnic, either locations are fine.
A lot of the students actually do live near Tempe campus, and there are free buses available, ASU buses, which will take you from the Tempe campus to the Polytechnic campus. So, as Araxi said, it depends on your interest and the kind of classes that you are taking. And some of this information, actually, you can get a student's perspective by talking to other students who are already there.
I think connecting with the Indian Student Association would be very, very
Yeah.
important for you because they will definitely provide you the information that you're looking for. What ISA also sometimes does is provides you temp housing so you can make a decision where you want to live. For example, if you get in touch with ISA, they will kind of host you with another Indian student, and you can live with them for 2-3 days while you look for the right kind of housing space, whether you want to live in Tempe area or you want to live in Poly. Majority of the Indians stay in the Tempe space because first of all the majors are in the Tempe area, but many choose to also live in Poly. But the best part is that between Poly and Tempe, there's a ASU bus running every 10-15 minutes, so that you don't need to worry about that much. But if you're looking for just the Indian community per se, you can see that there's a whole mile by mile area where a lot more Indian students are staying.
All right, thank you. What is the batch size for the computer engineering program, specifically the EE concentration?
I'm not sure what you mean by the batch size, but we have not reached a limit in terms of the number of students that we can accommodate, both CEE and CECS. They look over the applications together, that is both the CS and the EE, and they haven't put a limit on the number of students.
Is there a batch size from last year or 2 years? Because in India, what happens is that there's a fixed batch number, and that does not change. It's allotted by the Indian government. So that's why the question was about the batch size. Yeah.
Do we know roughly how many were last year? I don't know.
How many came in
Yeah,
last year? Approximately, I think around 60 for the masters, and we had about 15 for the PhD.
That was on the CS side.
Well,
Or
both.
the total.
Both,
Oh, okay.
right now.
Okay, that's great. What are the upcoming research projects for human systems engineering at ASU? So we don't have any representatives from that program here, so I'll take a stab at that. So for example, there's a very large effort underway right now. It's about air traffic control. So, our air traffic control system is an aging system. And next time you get on an airplane, think about that. So that's actually a very large funded project that does include a lot of human systems engineering. So that gives you an example of the kind of research that they're doing.
Another related research in computer science is there is a group on human-aware AI or human-aware artificial intelligence, where they try to model the humans so that a AI system and humans can collaborate together on tasks.
And then indeed, and on top of that, then there are also a lot of research going on in the field of robotics and autonomous systems, in addition to the AI work. And indeed, a good deal of that involves the human systems engineering program. So, are you planning to consider CPT for mechanical engineering? And the answer is yes. And in fact, we already allow CPT for mechanical engineering. So, I realized that was not the case up until about 2 years ago, right? So, CPT is indeed allowed. So, one of my own students, for example, an Indian master's student, last summer did CPT, an internship in San Diego. And in fact, he's since graduated and now he's working for that same company. So yes, you can do CPT if you're in mechanical engineering.
That said, make sure you know the CPT rules by your department, because understand that CPT is part of your curriculum. So every department has ways of setting up how their CPT is supposed to go. So computer science may have a different way of looking at CPT. Mechanical engineering and electrical engineering may have different ways of interpreting the CPT. So make sure you know the rules and regulations of your own particular department.
I might
Please.
mention something here that in each department we have advisors. They're not professors. They're particularly adept at answering questions of this sort. And you see that going here. We have two professors, and then we have Araxi to answer all these questions about how you register and what the fees are, etc. So you will be introduced to the advisors, and you should make very good use of them. They're very, very open to helping you with the various problems. One thing about CPT, you have to have that on your program of study, plan of study, the IPOS, and they will help you fill that out.
And then CPT is worked both with the engineering advisors and my office. Our office, of course, approves whatever the department recommends. So make sure you work with the departments first, and whatever the department recommends, we approve in terms of the CPT, because CPT is basically a two-step process. And we can, once the department is okay with your CPT, we approve it, and then you can start working. But you can't just think, oh, I want to start my CPT tomorrow and get a sign from the department today, because the office takes time. So make sure you plan your CPT way in advance, at least a month.
If I may, I see the CPT as a collaborative effort with the employer, the department you are working with, and the ISSC, the International Student Office. All the three are working together to help you get your employment in the end authorized to work at that specific company. So there's a specific letter requirements from the employer that has to be provided to the department, and then the department verifies and reviews it and issues the necessary paperwork, and then it goes to the ISSC. So all these three connecting uh, in, companies or institution or departments are all connecting and working together to get your, at the end, your authorization to work.
All right, thank you. Aerospace, is it easy to get a TA or an RA for MS students? I guess I'll take that. So I would not say that it's easy. So as we've said before, the TAs and RAs tend to go to PhD level students, but that's not absolute. So like Joe pointed out, there are indeed some offers do go to master's level students. But I would not say though that it's easy. So I don't want to mislead you. So it can happen. And again, RAs those are decisions by individual faculty members, whereas the TA, that's a decision in mechanical and aerospace engineering. That's a decision by our graduate program chair.
I'd like to add in.
Okay.
So on RAs, in many of the programs, the MS programs have a thesis and a non-thesis option. And usually for RAs, the thesis students get preferred because they are going to do research on a particular topic. So that's something to keep in mind.
And actually, maybe adding to that, most students at the master's level come in the default option as a non-thesis student, right? But if you want to change to a thesis option, that is possible. But again, it means that you have to have a faculty member who agrees to act as your advisor. So in other words, it's establishing that relationship with a faculty member that's very important. How to apply to reduce our prerequisite courses. This is probably an Iraqi question.
So we have a form available on our website if you would like us to review your prerequisites. It's possible that during the admission review, we missed or did not see a specific course, or it's possible that you at that time you were finishing it up and we didn't see any grades finalized. You were assigned a prerequisite course, and then you submit a request for us to review with the new information. And after reviewing, it's possible that you can reduce the prerequisite course. An alternative also is we have deficiency exams so when you arrive first year at ASU, we provide an exam. It's one day we put set aside on that day, and students register and go and take that specific exam for that specific class. So those are the ways. And of course, finally, the last thing is if there is no way to meet all these prerequisite courses, you haven't met it with a course or through the exam, then you have to take the class itself.
All right, thank you. Wow, okay. When will the prerequisite test out take place? I think.
Yeah, so it will be covered a week before the classes start. So try to plan to arrive here at least 2 weeks before the start of the semester. That way you can get settled. And then after that, you are attending orientations with ISSC. You're attending orientations with the department or the school specific, and then you're also taking some exams. So all these are taking place like a week before the start of classes.
All right, thank you. Aerospace, what is the stipend for PhD students? So in SEMTE, where that school, where that program is located, so the basic beginning stipend for entering PhD students would be, the minimum would be $800 per pay period. And so a pay period is 2 weeks long, okay? So that gives you an idea. So that's the floor, right? So that's the minimum. And then of course that on top of that would be added your health insurance, your tuition and things like that, right? But in terms of the stipend, the minimum starting is $800 per pay period. Again, that's for 2 weeks. Is it possible to change the major within the same school? Like I have an admit from robotics and autonomous systems, AI concentration, but what if I decide to opt for a major in computer science? I'll defer to my CIDSE colleagues for this.
Okay. So students who have applied for RAS, they can always submit a change of the major. If I'm not sure if the drop-down has been done, but on my ASU within your program, you can request a change and submit it. We strongly recommend that you first contact one of the advisors to see where you stand with the computers coming to the computer science. And if you meet all the deficiency requirements and the prerequisite, because RAS does not have a deficiency requirement, whereas the computer science has prerequisite requirements. So you want to make sure that you meet all those requirements before making those changes.
I'll add to that. I mean, for any kind of program changes, one other thing you have to be careful about is how much of the previous courses that you have taken already you can bring into a new program, and so there's a limit to that, right? 12
Correct.
credits.
Correct. 12 credits.
So if you have taken more than that, then you have to petition, and that's sometimes difficult. So if you want to change, it's better to change early in your program.
Thank you. What is the strength for the ASU master's degree in CS?
Strength, I think they mean the number of students,
yeah.
right?
Yes, they do.
So per year, we about 250 students come.
Per year, we get more than 250, around 300, 350 students. We get a lot of students. Yeah.
Just a master PhD as well.
Just the masters.
Just masters. Yeah.
Right. And this year, especially this fall, we have many more applications for the master's degree in computer science.
Yeah, I think the number of applications we get is probably close to 2,000, around 2,000 for the masters, right?
I think
that's
I
right.
also would like to add, I think our uniqueness of our programs, we have different concentrations available. The big data program is another strength for our program in our masters. We have both in the big data, you can opt to do thesis or non-thesis. We have the general one, which you can design and create whatever class you want to take to prepare you out there in the workforce. We have BMI, which is biomedical. We have the cybersecurity program, thesis and non-thesis options. We have AME, arts, media, and engineering. So we have a variety of different concentrations, and now we have robotics, and so specifically concentrating in artificial intelligence. All these varieties give us the strength in our master's program in computer science.
Thanks. Is it possible for an MS in IT graduate student to take courses from the Tempe campus related to machine learning apart from big data?
Yes. So students, they can submit an override request if they want to take any of our computer science courses. As long as they meet those requirements, they have to get the faculty approval. We usually reach out to the faculty to get that approval. And once it's approved, you're more than welcome to enroll in any of our computer science classes.
The particular ones you mentioned, I think at least machine learning is a very heavily subscribed courses, so you have to start early on that, the process.
As an MSCS student, do we need to take courses that are only in the handbook, or is there a separate list of elective courses?
We do not have elective list of courses, but students can approach to us and submit a syllabus. And with the syllabus, then the program chair reviews it, and it's subject to approval. If the program chair approves it, then the student can count those elective courses towards their degree requirement.
And I mean, the system here is that you can take courses in anywhere in the university. Now, if you want those courses to count towards your program, then we'll have to look into it from various angles. Is it related to your program of study? And does it overlap with your course you have already taken? So those are the concerns that the program chair would have to look into when you petition that you would want a particular course from another department to be counted towards your program.
And we should mention that this is an advantage of being large, right? ASU is a very large, substantial university. That means we have a lot of courses that are available to you, not only within CS, but across engineering and across the entire campus. So subject to approval, there are a lot of courses that are available to you to take. I heard about tests to clear deficiency prerequisite courses. I think we've probably addressed that, pretty much already. ASU offers OPT for what sort of jobs?
OPT is not related per se to jobs. It's a benefit of being an international student and finishing up your degree. So for example, whether you finish a degree in CS or electrical or mechanical, you will have a 1-year option of OPT. There are a few things that you need to keep in mind. First is that make sure you apply in time, because it takes the US government 90 days to process your OPT. Second thing, keep in mind that it's a 1-year option first. So once you find a job and you're working there for 1 year, then given the fact that you're in the STEM field, you can apply for a 24-month extension in STEM OPT. So OPT is not related to a job per se. It's a benefit that comes as an international student usually once you finish the degree.
Thank you. After requesting the I-20, how can I register for classes?
I think we covered that earlier. So basically, once you get your I-20, you want to make sure you clear your MMRI, measles, mumps, and rubella immunization. There's some paperwork that there is a link provided on my ASU. Complete all that paperwork, and then once it's approved, you will be able to register in classes.
And indeed, it's to your advantage, to your benefit to register as soon as possible. As like what we heard, some courses are very, very popular, right? So you want to make sure you have as much chance as possible to get into your desired course. Okay, a question about, does ASU have a co-op program for CS grad students? So that one I think we already discussed a bit. We do have internship programs that you can take. Second question is, I found that many of the classes are already filled and many are reserved. How do we register for the classes that we want?
So classes, we're constantly reviewing, looking at our schedule. We are planning to offer more classes. The program chair is working on that, the schedule. But if there is a specific class you want to register and that class is closed, there is a software or an app out there that is not part of ASU, but an ASU student created that app. ASU Seat Finder. It's one word.com, and basically it kind of runs at the background and tries to see if that specific class that has opened up, the student can then get a text message on their cell phone saying that this class is available.
Many classes which seem to be full before, they have some seats at the last moment. So you can watch out for that, because some students register for more than the courses they need, and they open up as the classes are about to start.
So is it sometimes better when they come on campus and they can register that time? There's a lot more.
It will be too late if they, by the time they arrive here and they haven't registered in any class. So a lot of times the first semester a new incoming student will not get all the classes, but the second semester will be much better because then they have priority of registration just like any other student, and they'll get a chance to register.
All right, all right. We are nearing the end of our time, so we're going to do a few more questions. How many job fairs will happen in a semester? All right, so
I think there is about one or two. One is a smaller version of it, and then there is one, the big one. So each semester they offer two major big fairs, and sometimes there is in summer a smaller one.
And then engineering has its own career services, but
Yeah.
then there's a central career services as well. And
The university has one.
right, so for example, for the job fair for engineering career services, they have one day that, each semester that's devoted just to graduate students in engineering, right? So specifically for master's and PhD level students. So anyway, that's something that definitely you want to take advantage of while you're here. Can you please elaborate about the portfolio project?
Okay. For the MCS program and MS non-thesis program, one of the culminating requirement is a portfolio, where you basically have to put together 3 of the projects that you have done in your classes, 3 of substantial projects. By substantial, it means that in any of those classes, that particular project counts towards, say, 30% or more of the grade. So you need to then take these projects, 3 of them, and then write a overview of them, and write what you did in that project, and that together, about 10-12 pages, counts as a portfolio in computer science.
All right, thank you. Can you please elaborate on how different life in the Polytechnic is from the Tempe campus? So we talked a little bit about living cost, I think, in the 2 different campuses. Of course, the Tempe campus is much larger in the numbers of students. Polytechnic campus it's a somewhat more rural.
right. So I would think that, as we travel to India, I think there are campuses that are outside of the city versus, campuses in the city. So that's how you would compare them. That there are some campuses, Poly is more like an outside of the city, all the city is all around it. And Tempe feels more like in the city kind of a campus.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
In terms of classes, I think often Polytechnic classes in the Polytechnic campuses are perhaps a little smaller in size, so you have a chance to interact with faculty and others much more easily than in Tempe campus.
And Poly is more hands-on as well. I think they have a lot more space in terms of, the interaction between the faculty and the students as well.
All right, good. Okay, is a bank loan sanction letter enough for the financial document proof to obtain the I-20? Maybe that's a Holly question? Or
Well, I think we'll
Okay.
both
Oh, there we
try.
go. Let's have 2 answers are better than 1. All right.
Well, I'm not sure what they mean by sanction letter, but they want to show in their bank that they have certain amount, dollar amount, and that is how the graduate admission is verifying that they have met that dollar amount that matches with the financial guarantee form. And I think there's sufficient instructions on the form, but if you have more questions, you may want to reach out to the email that is provided on that specific form when you're submitting your financial guarantee.
So there are certain words that are, more better than the other words. So if it just says, "Oh, you're approved for a loan," versus "you've been sanctioned," so sanctioned would be a better word, so as to say, than say approved, because in that way it shows that the process is way ahead in terms of your loan being sanctioned versus just approved.
So in other words, it's in process.
It has to be in a.
I think the question here is whether a sanction is enough or they have to show that the money has been given by the bank and it's already in your account.
I don't think you have to show that it's already in the account, but definitely it's not. It shouldn't just be just approved.
Okay.
It should be more like sanctioned, where you know that as soon as you get the documentation from the university, the money will come to the university per se. Because I think
see.
yeah. So
By the way, I was just reminded we actually have a bit more time to go, so we still have actually another 30 minutes or so. So we don't have to end quite so soon. Are the same courses available for the next semester if those are already full in this semester?
Most of the time, some of our classes are offered each and every semester, the popular ones, and then there are some courses that are offered spring only, or certain courses are offered only in fall, and then there are some classes that are offered odd or even years. So there is all the variety of planning that goes into scheduling.
I mean, if a class is full this semester, then there's a very good chance that it will be definitely offered within a year, if not in the subsequent semester.
I think that's generally true across engineering. Yeah. The most popular classes tend to be offered every semester. Otherwise, it's every year, or at worst, it's every other year. Are there housing opportunities near the Polytechnic campus?
Yes.
yes.
Yes, on the campus itself, there is residential area, and I heard that it's much more cheaper than here this side in Tempe. And I know certain students are staying there that are very, very happy. And it's a quiet neighborhood. There's not much activity, but as we said earlier, it's completely different. Where you are, but there are buses that are going back and forth, and you can always come to Tempe for if you want to be part of an activity or take classes.
Yeah.
All right. When should we reach ASU? First week of August?
I think classes start August 21st or 22nd. So 22nd, and so 2 weeks before that.
But again, with your I-20, you can come a month ahead. So
yes,
anytime from the middle of July, you can be here. But I think coming in the first week of August is absolutely fine.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, for this particular year, means in different years, the classes start at different times.
Yeah, sure.
So it's like when 2 to 3 weeks before the class is a good time.
Yeah,
And a fair thing to say, it's quite warm here in August.
yeah, quite warm. Yes.
Quite warm is understatement. It does get hot here, but probably you know that already. When can I expect an admissions decision on my application?
Okay, if a decision has not been reached, most of the programs for us, we're trying to finalize everything by the end of this month. So you should expect to get a decision by the end of this month, anytime.
That was from CIDSE, for electrical, computer, and energy engineering. We've made a couple passes at the applications that we have, and we've made decisions on the acceptances. We'll continue to take applications, but we've finished 90% of the admissions process.
And we should probably point out there is something called the reconsideration process for some students, for some applicants. And so especially for students who've applied, say, to computer science, who are deemed admissible, but not for the computer science program. As we mentioned, there's huge competition now to get into the computer science program. So that body of students will automatically be considered for both the software engineering program as well as for the information technology program. But this reconsideration process, as it's called, does take an additional time. So that could be why, your particular application, there's been some delay. Is it possible to shift to the PhD after my first year of MS?
Yes. So,
Yeah, in electrical engineering, you can do that. All you have to do is, well, what you must do is find a research professor who will take you on, be chair, and so the professor and yourself ask to be switched to the PhD after the first semester.
the process is similar in computer science.
And I think it's similar in all the programs in engineering. And indeed, the very important part is again, establishing that relationship with the faculty member and having that faculty member agree to serve as your advisor. Once that happens, then it's relatively easy to change. What climate to expect and clothing preference? So we heard in August, it's a bit hot.
Hotter.
That's correct.
It's kind of similar. If you're in India, it's similar to like Delhi or Bangkok, or kind of the temperature is like that.
Well, except there's
It's less humidity.
less humidity.
Like Delhi is
Yeah.
not humid,
Right, right.
So it's similar to Delhi, I would say.
Yeah, but Chennai and Bangalore and then Mumbai get a lot more humid.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more like Delhi weather.
Yeah, the weather here is more dry and
Hot.
hot.
Yeah.
And
If you were talking about August, if you're
Yeah.
coming in spring, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think to me, the one good part of coming in August is the weather can only get better at that point, right? So you have a lot of good weather to look forward to at that point.
Well, clothing preference, I think, you should always have
Shirts.
informal clothes and then
Yeah.
a few formal clothes. Majority of the Americans, don't expect you to have formal clothes. I think it's more informality.
That's true. And I think, we are sort of West Coast in a way, right? I mean, it's less formal here than, say, on the East Coast of the United States. And you can see a difference in what people wear. It's pretty rare, actually, to see, for instance, a man wearing a coat and tie. It's too hot. We have one of our colleagues wearing a coat, but anyway, it's relatively rare. It's the first time I've ever seen him wearing a sport coat. So.
I bought this when I became the chair and haven't worn it since.
There we go.
yeah, make sure just to have at least a professional outfit for interview. When it comes time for interviews or for internships, you want to be more formal.
Yeah, that's very good advice. How is information technology different from CE and CS?
I think it is a little more application oriented and somewhat less theoretical than computer science. That's kind of a quick and easy way of differentiating between them.
All right. There is a website. I don't have it in front of me now, but that kind of details what some of the graduates of the IT program have gone on to do in terms of employment. And actually, it's very respectable. Many of these IT graduates have gone on to some very top firms, software-related firms in various industries. Can you tell students how to find WhatsApp groups for their specific areas of study and programs? So I showed there's, the general WhatsApp group. I think that is the place to start, all right? And I think from that general WhatsApp group for fall 2019, then I think it'd be easy to identify your counterparts, for a given program or major.
Yeah. And this is a recorded YouTube, so you can go back to the point where the last slide that Pat showed. You can look at the WhatsApp group there.
Yeah, and then hopefully we'll be able to show that before we sign off again, so just in case.
And I will just add, again, the Facebook group is also very helpful. If you go there and ask such questions, people will help you out with the right pointers.
Thanks. How much does on-campus housing cost, and can graduate students live on campus?
I've heard some students, but graduate students prefer to live off campus.
Yeah.
So in Tempe, actually, there are off-campus housing just next to the university, which are as close as on-campus, not making much of a difference.
Yeah, and they're much cheaper compared to on campus are very limited for graduate students, but in poly campus though, there are a lot of options
on campus.
on campus because they have houses, like Army barrack houses. And, I've seen many of the Indian students, for example, stay with, a group of 3, 4 staying in 3-bedroom house. So Poly may have a lot more option in terms of staying on campus. Tempe, because there's a lot of off-campus housing right across the street, that's where the students usually prefer to stay.
How is the grading system in the US different and the same for universities in India?
So the universities in India are very different kinds. So the grading system in the US is similar to the grading system in the IITs or the BITS Pilani. So there are grades A, B, C, D, and many other universities in India are going to that system. So it's not clear that there is a universal standard of all universities in India. So I would say, again, repeat that the grading system is similar to the system in IITs and BITS Pilani.
So A, B, C, D will be A will translate between 90 and 100. B would be between 80 and 90%. C would be 70 and 80%, and D would be 60 and 70%. And then you can take that and look at the scale of 10 and kind of do the division, because the 10 scale also looks at the percent part.
Yeah, and within the class itself, the instructor has its own grading expectations, and so it's mentioned in the syllabus what is a grade that you obtain in an exam will be equivalent to. But the final grade, what will be posted on your transcript, is the final A, B, C, D, as Holly explained.
Uh, Another point is, again, India, the universities are of like a whole spectrum. I mean, they are all very different. Many of them are very different. But in general, in the US, the final grade is not just based on the final exam. I mean, the final exam may count only to 40 or 50% in most classes, and the rest of the grade comes from tests and various projects and so on that happens all through the semester. So that's a difference compared to many universities in India, not all, but many universities in India.
All right, thank you. What is the last day to upload the I-20 forms and the MMR?
The sooner the better is for you, I think. It is for your benefit, because then you will be able to register. Classes are filling up, and your preference choices and classes will be minimum. So the sooner you get this in uploaded, the sooner you'll be registered.
And also know that in June, July, the visas get difficult to get the appointments for you. So the consulates and embassies don't have that many appointments left for the student visa interview. So the earlier you do, the better it is. Because you want to apply for the visa by May, June, so you can plan to be here between July and August.
I mean, the last day is mentioned in the websites, but what they are saying and what you should pay attention to is not to wait till the last day.
Can we change from thesis to non-thesis once we arrive at the campus?
Yes.
In computer science, you can change, but you have to be careful when you change how many credits of the courses that you have taken you can bring into. And so those that you have to pay attention to when you're changing from thesis to non-thesis. You can say about EE or other.
Yes, in EE you can't change from non-thesis to thesis until you've been here at least one semester. So you've established your grades, and that is when it happens.
And I want to add that our master's program, the MS concentrations, now all have both a radio button, the thesis and non-thesis. So when you are submitting your plan of study, IPAWS as we call it, you'll be familiar once you arrive here. You are just choosing a radio button, so you don't even need to submit a change of concentration or a change of the thesis to non-thesis. It is within your plan already. There, those options.
All right, thank you. Can students switch from one major to another once they are here on campus? We talked a little bit about this already. I guess it depends on whether it's within a school versus to a different school.
Means you can always change, but the other major, the major you want to change to, have to accept you first.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
important.
so you
Yeah.
have to apply to this other major or for the switching, and they have to accept you. And if they do accept you, then the question is to do it early so that to see how much of your previous coursework you can transfer to the new program.
And I think like what's been pointed out before, is it always the case where you can only transfer up to 12 hours automatically without petitioning 12 credit hours.
Correct. And with the grades of B or better.
Right.
So anything below B grades will not transfer to the new program.
Can students apply for an internship from India? So in other words, before arriving,
After, so they're thinking about taking a break and going back and doing.
oh,
internship.
working as an internship in India.
In India
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
can
So
we
maybe
apply
Holland.
for
So
an
the
internship?
idea is that they were doing their job here.
No, this might be a question relevant to the online program.
I'm not sure. So if a student wants to apply for an internship from India, so maybe we can break this question into several. Before arriving, you are not a student yet. No, you can't do an internship. You have to be in the United States for 1 year in order to be eligible for internship, or as we know, CPT. If you arrived in the United States after 1 year, you could do your next available option will be the next time you can do an internship is in summer of 2020. 2020. Sorry. So then there is the other option is if you want to during summer go back to your country and do an internship in your country, that is also possible option you can do. And then if it's an online, there is no opportunities that you could do as an online student for an internship
In US.
in the US. Yes.
Anything to add to that? Or
That's
Okay.
good.
All right. Can you go over the part-time jobs on campus and provide some information on that? Maybe I'll tackle that. So there are indeed a lot of part-time hourly positions, so one gets paid on an hourly basis available on campus. Some of them involve research. Some of them involve teaching, such as grading type positions. Others are more general. They could be indeed office type positions or other kinds of positions. I think what's a typical hourly rate now?
Over 10. So
Over
10.50.
Over
so
10.
at least $10 per hour.
Yeah.
I think that's the minimum now for on-campus jobs, and then it goes upwards from there. And there indeed are a lot of on-campus jobs available.
So
And
a couple of common jobs, on-campus jobs in computer science, are in the tutoring center. There are a lot of master students. They get jobs there where you help tutor undergraduate students in certain classes. Then grader jobs. So while the teaching assistants usually go to the PhD students, but we have a lot of graders for all our classes, and many of the master students, they take those grader jobs as part-time jobs. So these are very common.
so, for example, my office hires close to 40 students, and they're all in the customer service. So they're in the window and helping other international students with their issues. And then, of course, once they can't handle it, then the other staff handles it. And for an international student, you're limited to 20 hours a week during the school itself, but on the breaks you can work full time. So that's an advantage that you have.
And a lot of this information actually you get a lot from your friends and classmates and people living around you. And oftentimes I've heard, like, say, a particular student say has a part-time job as a grader, and he or she gets a teaching assistant position. So he goes to the professor saying, "Okay, I got a better job," and the professor is like, "It's the middle of the semester. Can you help me find someone?"
Yeah.
So having the friends and connections, you will get a lot of recommendations of where jobs are available,
Yeah.
where you can apply.
Yeah, so apart from the academic and the staff areas, there's jobs in the cafeteria, there's a job in the parking. There are plenty of other jobs that are always needed, student jobs, positions that are needed on campus.
All right, thank you. Can you explain this reconsideration process? What if we have already registered for classes? So the reconsideration process that we talked a little bit about before is if, for example, if you applied for the master's in computer science, you were considered acceptable for admission, but there's no room for you in computer science. It's indeed a very, very competitive program. That means you'll automatically be reconsidered for software engineering and information technology. So now, if you've already registered for classes, I think that's fine. That means you've been admitted to one of those programs.
You cannot register without being admitted, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's good.
I think what the question here is trying to say is that once they arrived here and they've registered in a program class, now they want to go back to and try to for another program. While they're here, you can try. There's no guarantee that what you're asking will happen. You will have to sometimes if it's outside the school, then you have to submit a new application to that specific program. If you are, for example, if you were admitted in the information technology program and now you're trying to come to computer science, you have to submit a new application and review it. And most of the time, we are no longer reviewing application once the semester starts for that term. We are moving towards the next semester. So, and the best option for you is to wait for that semester to get through that first semester and then hopefully see if you can move in the coming semester, which is in the spring 2020.
Okay, thank you. What are the advantages of living on campus over off campus at ASU? So we've talked a bit about that. Off campus tends to be cheaper, all right? At least at the Tempe campus, it's also widely available and it's nearby. Campus itself is in Tempe. Actually, both campuses, the Tempe campus and the Poly campus, both are quite large, actually. So, so even if you're living on campus, you could still be a long distance away, perhaps, from your courses. And like what has been pointed out before, in reality, at least in the Tempe campus, not many graduate students live on campus in practice.
So I think if you live on campus, you have like you can go eat at the residence halls at a more monthly rate or a yearly rate or something?
Well, you can still do it for an off-campus. That's
too.
not a problem.
The
But
meal plans are the same.
yeah, meal plans are the same. But on campus, it's just, first of all, I mean, not an advantage. The disadvantage is that it's going to be a little more expensive. Tempe itself has very limited options for graduate students to stay on campus. But Poly does. Poly has some really good. So the Poly campus, on-campus options are more like housing options, like house. And if you live on campus, it's more like a dorm, a hostel, versus an apartment, which is more of an off-campus style.
One thing I can say is living on campus is the dorms do not get quiet. It's noisy because they do not get to sleep until 3:00 a.m. This is from past students telling me that because there is a younger generation that it's not for ideal for graduate students. So the younger students who are in bachelor's degree pursuing, they are freshman students who have started in at ASU. They're out studying or making noise or hanging around with friends, and really it does not get quiet until 3:00 a.m. in the morning.
But on the flip side of that, living on campus gets you more engaged on campus.
Correct.
You can't escape the campus. The campus spirit is there. There's a program going on at 5 p.m. and people from your floor are all going. So you're in a way more active and more engaged on campus. Whereas off campus, sometimes you are more isolated, although the students around you might all be students, studying at ASU, but they're going in all different directions. Whereas people who are on campus, they're literally being kind of, casualed and kind of, taken to spaces where, you can be more active in different activities.
True. All right, I think that means we've come to the end of our submitted questions, but of course, we welcome any additional questions that you might have. And so we encourage you can submit questions either to this email address shown here, fultonschools@asu.edu, or if I can come back to the other screen, and I'd also encourage you to submit, there we go. I'd also encourage you to submit questions, and again, to either Nikki or to Deepraj in India. And indeed, they're full-time staff for ASU located in India, and it's their job specifically to deal with graduate students like yourself. So reach out to them by all means. Again, there's also the Fall 2019 Admitted Graduate Students WhatsApp group. Please take note of that. Join that group. That's a great way to meet other people who are coming here. And with that, I'd like to thank our panel for being here today. Hopefully it's been helpful. This session indeed is being recorded, and so you can access this anytime afterwards.
I add a few sentences
on YouTube. Please.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to add some last sentences. One is our advising officers in each of the schools are very helpful, and they would be your first place you turn into, go to for any kind of questions. Second, as I said, your friends can give you lots of tips. Third, most of our professors have an office hour, and it's normal to walk into any professor's office during their office hours because that's what the office hours are for. So if you want to talk to a professor for a particular course, particular advice, that's the office hours are the right time to go. So these are the various places that you can get advice once you're here.
All right. With that, we'll close now, and we hope to see you here this fall. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.